but you're right. When it comes down to the homegrown feel with this team, I agree with that. And Howie's hit the mark on a lot of these names, and it starts and ends with Jalen. Of course, he is ours. He's our guy from the beginning, and the fact that he was drafted for this reason. Give Howie all the credit in the world for pulling the trigger when he did. They showed Carson Wentz on the sideline. That could not have been easy, to say we just gave Carson Wentz this contract, and Nick Foles is gone. It's Carson Wentz's team, but no, I'm still going to draft Jalen Hurts. Like that can't be easy.
I've got a take
And
for you on that.
what,
Based on
what's
that,
that?
Howie Roseman is the most valuable person in the history of Philadelphia sports.
There's nothing more important than the Eagles. We know that.
Well, I guess I should say, I'll draw back history. I'll say since 1980, because I don't know enough about the 70s Flyers. I can't speak to that. I can't speak to Wilt and the 60s Eagles or whatever you want to, pre-Super Bowl Eagles. I'll say since 1980, you look at all those eras, the Doc Schmidt, the Dr. J Sixers, one title with Moses there. The Mike Schmidt Phils in that run, only one title. The 08 Phils with Chase and all those guys, obviously only one title. That Eagles run, obviously never won a title with the Donovan run and Andy. And then this run, obviously you get a title in 2017, and Howie's the GM for that. He gets back to another Super Bowl. Here he is in another Super Bowl, 3 Super Bowls as an executive in 8 years. Potential to be, the first executive in Philly sports history to win, or since 80, to win 2 titles. I don't think anyone's been more valuable to this city's sports than Howie Roseman.
It's hard to argue, and again, we know when you want to talk about a player, that's obvious. But this dude has just drafted, has been, and look, the Eagles are very lucky, very fortunate, and that Jeffrey Lurie deserves a ton of credit.
Absolutely,
that he's still here, that he was hung on to through the Chip Kelly debacle. Chip Kelly wanted to clean house. He wanted Howie gone. Jeffrey said, "No, man. We're going to bump him to the back. That's fine, but he's still going to be a part of it." And for some odd reason, Howie stayed. And Howie stayed through it, right? Because I know I would have been like, I need to get the hell out of here. You don't want me? Cool. I want to go. I know what my worth is. I'm going somewhere that I want to be valued. And, he wanted to be the general manager. He was no longer the guy pulling the strings. And then to get to what he was able to do and, to get the opportunities and just, man, he's been hitting left and right and signing great, balancing the cap too, which has got to be difficult. It's crazy, man. And getting these extensions out early, he's pulling all the right strings. It's amazing what he's been able to do. There was a guy, what the hell is his name? I'm terrible these days. I can't remember names, and I've been sober too, which is great. But he was his roommate in college. He became the Florida Gators coach, and he told a story in the Rich Eisen show. I just saw this. It might have been old, might have been, they're running it back. No.
No,
it's Jim something. And he said that Howie, when they lived together, in college, Howie, the draft, that was his time, you, a freak for the draft. He said he would sit down, notebooks all over the place. And he said that Howie, drafted, he wanted to be the Jets. The Jets was his team. He wanted to be the Jets general manager. That was his dream. They would say, what do you want to do? He wanted to be the general manager in the NFL. Of course, we know that story, but the Jets.
Said, by the way.
There you go. And he said that he remembers it like it was yesterday. It was the draft that the Jets pulled the trigger on Kyle Brady, tight end, and how he was losing his mind over it. And, it's just crazy, how he ends up here in 2025 running the Eagles to another Super Bowl. And he has proved his worth and then some, to the point that you're bringing up. He's the most important man in Philadelphia, which even him, if he heard that, he'd be like, yeah, calm down, But it's reality. It's reality.
And something that's so valuable with Howie is he doesn't have to make decisions based on protecting his job. He just has to make decisions. And that might sound weird to some people, but there are GMs out there who have to make decisions like, oh, if this is wrong, I look like an idiot, I get fired. Howie knows, for better or worse, he's got ultimate job security. I really do think after he won that title, he's like, they're never getting rid of me. You know, you watched him go through the Jalen Reagor year and the J-Jaw, and he had his struggles post Super Bowl, and obviously fired Doug. Obviously, Wentz, that whole debacle, like you just said, it couldn't have been easy to navigate through that era. And they dealt with a huge amount of dead cap in 2021 with Carson Wentz. A lot of people wouldn't have had the courage to do that and wouldn't have had the guts to think, you know what, I can still make it a competitive team outside of that. So I think this is a situation where you have to give Jeffrey Lurie a ton of credit as well. I think he's the best owner in sports, or at least in Philly sports. The kind of the leeway he's given Howie and the job security he's given Howie, I think, has allowed Howie to just make the best possible decisions. You don't have to make decisions based on saving your own butt.
What was exactly your terminology? The Howie Roseman is the most important person. What did you say?
I think Howie Roseman is the most valuable person in the last 45 years of Philadelphia sports. And, you could throw Mike Schmidt, Dr. J, you could throw, Chase Utley, I guess, or Nick Foles or someone like that. That's fine. I'll take Howie. The fact that he won us a Super Bowl as a GM, and you look at the moves he made for that 2017 team. We just talked about all the aging veterans that he added. They were huge. Then you get back to a Super Bowl within 5 years. You get to another Super Bowl 2 years after that. And on the other side of things, if they win the Super Bowl here on Sunday, Lane Johnson is the best Eagle in history. He is Mr. Eagle. If you win this, he's the only guy besides Brandon Graham who's on both teams. And Brandon Graham,
wow.
All respect to Brandon Graham, but Lane Johnson is arguably the best player on the team this year.
Yeah.
And arguably could have been in that argument in 2017.
That's another thing about Howie, right? Like, and it's crazy because I would love to be a fly on the wall to really hear how these discussions take place, because we know, like, you have to have a good army underneath you. You got to have people that defend you or depend on. You can depend on. Matter of fact, I did have a conversation last year with the scout for the Eagles, who there's like 8 scouts that literally split the United States up. And I spoke to the guy specifically about the Southwest region, and it was 2 years ago because Bijan was the guy we were talking about, and he said Bijan. He's been scouting for like 8 or 9 years. He said far and away Bijan is the best guy I've ever scouted. So he had that region, and it's like, look, he can't watch every film, he can't watch every player, but damn it, man, he knows how to work the draft, and he knows he's got his targets. And then the chances, the rolling of the dice too, like Jordan Mailata. Like, come on, man. Like, I could see it. I understand it. He's a human. He's a massive human being. He's agile. He's got the athleticism because he plays that sport. Sure. But you mean to tell me that's going to translate and you're going to roll the dice by, and what, they drafted him in the 7th round or whatever. What did they get him?
Yeah. 7th rounder.
Like, and where does he rank in his position in the NFL?
Oh, he's top 5, top 10 guy for sure. No doubt about it.
He's a guy that you want in your damn foxhole. He's a guy you want on your team. Regardless, like, he's got an attitude, he brings it, he talks trash, and he backs it up. This offensive line is just a freak show, man.
You can really just go like so many decisions how he's made, like Landon Dickerson, a guy who could not stay healthy in college and would have easily been a top 10, top 15 pick. How he said, really? You know what? We'll take him in the 2nd round. We'll take the swing because if he stays healthy, and we know we're getting an elite player on the interior O-line. Cam Jurgens, 2nd rounder. He was not really graded out as a 2nd rounder. It was kind of a surprising pick there. Jason Kelsey kind of tabbed him and said, here's a guy that I think can start right away at guard and play center. He's turned into an excellent guy. Mekhi Becton was written off. There's a chance if he goes to the wrong team, he's out of football right now, Mekhi Becton. But he goes.
Did you see the video today with Stoutland down there? Did you see that?
Well, I didn't actually.
Stoutland last night was asked about that, like take us through bringing him the guard or putting him in the guard. He said Sirianni suggested it. He said Sirianni before OTAs said, why don't we put him in there? Let's just see what he's got. And Stoutland was like, man, somebody that size, you just don't see them being successful in that position, which is intriguing because whatever. And then
it's hard to get low. Hard to get low on the interior when you're so tall.
So then he gave Sirianni all the flowers in the world on that one, to be honest with you. But in Stoutland we trust, man. Hungry dogs run faster.